as the Irish host, Andrew Cox, who at a very young age I decided I wanted to be a marine biologist, and I was fascinated in seaweed and the sea. And then he, along with another teacher in Newtown School, changed my entire life to understand that it's not enough just to be interested, but that you have to live your life and you have to walk the talk as well. So we all, I think any of us who've been inspired by incredible teachers, we all try and give that to people that we're linked with and that we work with, and that's why it's such a huge honor for me to be here. I have, as I cycled in today, because heaven forbid that we'd use a fossil fuel burning car, I've been fully electric and cycling for a long time now, thanks to the lessons. I thought what is important, and really it is being able to pass the lessons on and the inspiration that comes from teachers. So I'd like to use this opening ceremony to say thank you, Andrew Cox, you changed my entire life. And to introduce myself a tiny bit, I went through my marine biology career and I decided that in making a difference, I'd take on the hard job of being involved in control of fisheries. So I now, from the 1st of September, I'll be looking after all of the European maritime area, both around Europe and all over the world, as director of the European Fisheries Control Agency. And just to say, my entire career and everything that I've done and my way of being has been thanks to the teachers who inspired me and to attending conferences. And I hope that everybody who's listening to this, everybody who's attending this conference all over the world, you realize that the seeds that are sown here and what we're seeing here will give fruits in many years to come. So my main job today is to keep us on time and have the huge honour of introducing later on Mary Robinson. So I'd like to hand over to the caretakers of the Environment International hosts from Ireland and to the alumni team. So I'm going to hand on to Andrew Cox and to Laura Kelly.
Well, greetings from Waterford. I want to introduce myself and give you a sense of place about the area which the conference has been hosted. I'm a former president of CEI, host of the conference in 1998, and I would have met a number of the teachers, but a lot of the students I will never have seen before, except those that I'm working with on the young reporters. A group of students from 5 continents have volunteered to bring news as it happens at the 35th CEI conference in July. They are from as far afield as Malawi, Costa Rica, Turkey, Indonesia, USA, Germany and Mexico. They will be reporting with short interesting articles and social media clips from a student's perspective, plus assembling material for the online global forum. A small group will interview some of the key speakers and participants to get their thoughts and ideas on sustainable communities. For the YRE News team, I'm Andrew Cox from Ireland, handing over to the team members.
Hello, I'm Selin. I'm 17 years old and I'm Turkish. I'm currently a junior at Üsküdar American Academy in Istanbul. I only joined last year's CEI conference, however I was really impressed during the conference, so I wanted to join Young Reporters for CEI this year to be able to share my experience. I'm really excited about the upcoming interviews and about learning other people's perspectives on environmental issues. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Edward Kaira. I'm 20 years old in Damflo, Malawi. I will be a CEI reporter, and it's my first time attending this conference.
My name is Masha. I'm 16 years old and I'm from Mexico. I'm going to be a young reporter in the CEI conference of 2021. This is my second conference. The first one was in 2019 in Turkey. And I'm very excited to be a young reporter because I like writing and I would like people to know more about what we do in the CEI conferences.
Hi, my name is Maria Blyden Kameda. I'm 20 years old. and I'm from Malawi. This is my first time at CEI conference. I'm very much excited because I'm gonna meet new people. I'm gonna gain new experiences. So to that, I'm grateful. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Isabel. I am 15 years old and I am from Costa Rica. I am a part of the Young Reporters team and this is going to be my first CEI conference. I am the most excited for the interviews and for the student activities. And well, that is all for now, so goodbye.
Hi everyone, my name is Banyu, I'm 15 and I'm from Indonesia, and this year I am so excited to be a part of the CEI conference. You might recognize me from last year as one of the MCs, and this year I am back as a young reporter, and I am so excited to be able to learn new things and get to know new people from all around the world. Thank you so much, see you there.
Hi, my name is Hoynacki from Malawi. I'm 24 years old. I teach about climate change and endangered species. This is my first conference to attend as a young reporter. I'm excited because I want to tell people important things in the way that they will understand and care about. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sofia Monge and I am thrilled to say that I am a CEI young reporter. Some fun facts about me are that I am 17 years old, I am from Costa Rica, and actually I've never been to a CEI conference before. But that's why I am so excited to finally be participating this year, not only with my own project, but also as a CEI young reporter. I can't wait to meet all sorts of people from all around the world.
Hi everyone, my name is Nee and I'm 15 years old. I have not attended any CEI conferences yet, and what I probably am most excited about is meeting new people and learning about what they are passionate about and being a woman in STEM.
Hi everyone, I am Max. I am 16 years old and I am from Costa Rica. I am currently studying to earn my IB certificate. Last year was my very first CEI conference, but I am also joining this year's CEI Ireland 2021 conference but as a young reporter. It is very exciting to have this opportunity, but what excites me the most is that this year as a reporter I am going to have the opportunity to learn a little bit more about this amazing organization. Hope to see you soon. Bye!
Hello, my name is Reeve Randall and I'm a CEI reporter from the USA. I'm 15 years old. This is my first CEI conference, and I'm greatly looking forward to meeting new people.
Hi, my name is Jimena. I'm 15. I'm Costa Rican and I currently live in Costa Rica. This is going to be my first CEI conference, and what I'm most excited about is being part of the Young Reporters team, writing articles, and making interviews. Bye, see you later.
Hello, my name is Ignacio Chavez. I am 17 years old and from Costa Rica. This is my first time participating in a CEI conference, and I'm really excited to see what kinds of projects people from around the world have created for this event.
Hey, I'm Danny. I'm 16 and I'm a high school junior from Costa Rica. This is going to be my second conference, and I'm most excited to engage with and learn from all the wonderful stakeholders that are going to be present at CEI 2021.
Hi, my name is Everest Foster and I am 21 years old. I'm a Malawian and I'll be one of the CEI, and this is my first time taking part in this meeting conference, and I am ready to learn more from the meeting. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joe. I am 17 years old and I'm from Germany. I'll be joining my first Caretakers of the Environment conference in summer 2021, where I'll be working as a young reporter. I'm especially looking forward to expanding my knowledge on sustainability and collaborating with people from all over the world.
Hello everyone, this is Srishti from India. I am 17 years old and presently I am a high school student. This is for the first time I am going to appear for the CEI Conference 2021 as a young reporter. I am much eagerly waiting for taking part in all the activities that will be present in the event. And I am also glad that I will be meeting all of you there in the virtual meeting. So, looking forward for the great auspicious day. Till then, bye.
Namaskar. It is Abhanil Biswas from India. I am 13 years old and it is my second time attending the CEI conference. I am very excited to gain knowledge from people all around the globe. ধন্যবাদ।
Welcome to the 35th Annual Conference of Caretakers of the Environment International. I would like to thank the International Board for giving us the opportunity in Ireland to host the virtual conference that you have taking place this week. Caretakers of the Environment Ireland, in association with the senior alumni, will host this conference virtually. Can't see the wood for the trees? Well, I must thank at this stage in advance the senior alumni team, who have done a brilliant job in making things clearer for me, and I'm sure clearer for you. We would like to welcome and thank in advance all the speakers and both keynote speakers and workshop hosts, and all of those who are chairing the various sessions throughout the conference. Welcome to Waterford. Greetings to all the delegates from all over the world. You're visiting our town, our city, Waterford, in the southeast of Ireland, and some of you are more welcome than others. Those of you with Viking origin, Waterford was a Viking town. Waterford city lies on a river. Unlike most rivers in Europe, the Vikings from Denmark and Sweden sailed up the river looking for somewhere to settle, and Waterford, his historic name is Vadra Fjord, the sheltered harbour. It's not surprising therefore that they settled both here at the main, where the main city grew, and further upstream at Woodstown, where they had a major long-house settlement. And behind me you can see on the wall there some friendly Vikings who are associated with the foundation of the city of Waterford. So they welcome you here as well. Waterford is in the sunny southeast, as they call it, here in Ireland. And you'll see these logos around the countryside with all related to tourism. But you can see that Waterford right down here in the southeast. Waterford is on the River Suir. It's one of three sister rivers that join further downstream at Cheek Point, the Suir, the Nore and the Barrow, which drain most of the southeast of Ireland. So, a river is a good symbol of both a barrier between peoples and something that unifies people. And I like to think that joint educational projects between different countries can be created and developed with the theme of sustainable communities. So the river is both a symbol of division and a symbol of unity. In 1998, Newtown School hosted the Caretakers Conference in Waterford in the southeast of Ireland as part of that bicentenary celebrations. Now, for the 35th conference, we welcome you to Newtown School. Newtown School students have been involved with caretakers right from the start. In 1987, I brought 2 students to the Netherlands, and more recently we've been to Denmark and to Hong Kong and a number of other places as well. So there's a long association between Newtown School and Caretakers of the Environment conferences, and a number of the students from the transition year in Newtown are helping with the workshops, and also they're joined by their colleagues from the Arsenal School in Waterford. Little did I know in 1987 that I would still be involved with caretakers 35 years later. How times have changed. Communications used to be very difficult. At the time of the 98 conference, it was the first time we encountered mobile phones. Now we can communicate all right across the world. We welcome you all from far and wide.
Wow. That is just, it's fantastic. I went to Newtown School and I can see it there. I think one of the fantastic things about this for the virtual conference is that we get to meet everybody all the way around the world who mightn't have been able to travel. And there's 420 people who are actually registered for this conference. So it's really exciting that we can get so many. But one of the more difficult things is sometimes the wonderful learnings and the lifelong friendships. So just to follow on with the encouragement there and the messaging there, the friends that you make here as students, it will last a lifetime. So just to encourage all of there's been a huge amount of work to give lots of opportunities to get to know and to work with everybody across the different countries and to try and learn that. And one of the big things is often the language and practicing a bit. So you will have seen at the start, welcome in Irish is Céad Míle Fáilte. So I can teach, some of you will have Irish already, and some it'll be the first learning of it. So Céad Míle Fáilte. Now I think that we've got through the Young Reporters video and the full host, but I'm just going to get a thumbs up from Jana just to make sure there isn't another video to run. Is there? Thumbs up. So we're good to keep moving on. And it's lovely to see the stuff coming up in the chat. So just to encourage, at the moment, we've got 270 participants from all over the world, some students, some teachers, some observers, and just to say a massive welcome to you all. And it's just fantastic you're here. So to keep communicating in the chat. I can see the quiz about who are the two team leaders who come from Newtown. I know the answer, but I won't tell you at this point in time. So I think with these, we're just stepping a foot in history. This event has been going for many years, and these things and the interactions that are happening here inspire everybody who's part of this conference, and it changes all of our lives in some way. And that stepping on history, we have to pay a massive thanks to the founders, to those who came up in the beginning with the ideas, the energy that they had to put in. It's always much easier to keep a wheel rolling than it is to get it rolling in the first place. So it's with a huge thank you and gratitude deeply that I get the pleasure of introducing Dan Hoynacki, who coming in from the USA and from Oregon, and the founder, I believe there'll be a video message and a talk from him. So I'm going to hand over to Dan, and well done. And we are so lucky to be stepping in your footsteps here.
So I've just got a video from Isabel first. So I'm just going to play that one first, and then we'll get Dan.
Yeah, and then, okay, no problem.
Welcome, caretakers. My name is Isabel Abrams, and I send you greetings from the state of Vermont in the USA. I am one of the 3 co-founders of Caretakers of the Environment International, also called CEI, and I would like to share with you some of its history. In 1986, my friend Ed Raditz, who was a teacher of biology at a high school in a suburb of Chicago, Illinois, the USA. He invited me to meet with Arjen Walls, an intern in his class from the Netherlands, who was doing research on American attitudes toward environment. We met for lunch, and by the time we had finished with issues about pollution and loss of biodiversity, we had finished our main course. And I said that young people, no matter where they live or what their career choice or lifestyle is, have to understand that they are caretakers of the environment. I thought I was quoting Dr. Noel Brown, who was the director of the United Nations Environment Program. But when I reread the article that I had interviewed him for, it said shareholders. So caretakers was a misquote, but it tells what we try to do. And what we've done is host conferences every year in different countries. In preparation for the conferences, young people and teachers do projects in their local communities. We're all volunteers, and the teachers and the representatives of caretakers have to persuade and educate the people in their communities to gain the support they need to host. But we've had more than 30 years of conferences every year. Caretakers was honored by the Global Assembly of Women and Environment in 1991. And in 1992, it was a delegation at the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro. So we have some traditions with caretakers, is that at conferences, we celebrate the cultures with stories, songs, and dances. And when we leave a conference or sign a letter, we often say, take care, which means take care of yourself and take care of the environment. We also have rainbow hugs. They travel all over the world, and they provide strength when you need to face a challenge, celebration when something wonderful has happened, and express friendship and love. So I send you rainbow hugs right now for a wonderful online conference, a first for caretakers. And I wish you much success.
It really is from small acorns that mighty oaks grow, and that was completely inspirational. I love the thing, rainbow hugs to Isabel, but lots of hugs to her. And Dan, I see you're there now, so a huge thank you, I think, from everybody who's here. What an incredible oak tree you're looking at here today.
Well, good morning, everyone. This is exciting. We all set, Jana? My volume is good? Excellent. Well, welcome on behalf of the Caretakers of Environment International Board of Directors. I welcome you officially to the 35th Annual Conference. A positive outcome of the pandemic has pushed us to be creative and grow. Next slide, please. This virtual conference has enabled us to welcome nearly twice as many delegates as we could manage in our first 33 in-person conferences. Next slide, please. Once again, this is where highly motivated youth, senior and junior alumni, educators, schools, communities, and nations experience shared experiences, discussion, inspiration, validation, and celebration. Next slide, please. So I want to take a second to talk a little bit about a harmony and conflict parable with nature to show you where we've come and why caretakers is one of the reasons caretakers is here. Most of you agree that nature thrives in its biodiversity. And through its biodiversity, nature adapts to both extreme rapid change and slow-moving conditions. It's what keeps evolving in the natural order. Nature is our supreme teacher. It's a natural, but it's a complex system. There was a time not so long ago where all entities that exist within nature consumed only what they needed in exchange for giving back something so that those other entities could be vital in their own existence. In other words, it was sustainable. Then a few hundred years ago, humans thought they could outsmart nature and take whatever they wanted, not in harmony, but in conflict, without regard for the needs of the plants and animals and fundamental elements of this planet. And the driving force wasn't out of a sense of need, but one of profit. Prosperity is important, especially if it serves all needs, and it isn't at the expense of our nature. You can't abruptly change any system without the compliance of its members, its participants. Otherwise, there's conflict. Caretakers takes a systemic approach. So let me remind you about our caretakers' goals. To develop a worldwide network of secondary school students and teachers who share environmental concerns and who face environmental challenges. Share successful and innovative environmental education programs that engage secondary youth. Facilitate joint educational dialogue and projects that encourage international data exchange and interdisciplinary activities and inspire future careers in the environmental world. To seek opportunities which enable delegates to act as ambassadors for CEI in their own country. Next slide, please. Oh, you're there. Good, you beat me. To promote environmental awareness and to develop national environmental education networks. Encourage in the building of trust, friendship, cooperation among people of different cultural backgrounds. And finally, to celebrate the added value of teamwork, making new and lifelong friendships, and achieving new contextual knowledge not available from a textbook or a website. So the caretaker's gift to each of you is what I want to speak to a little bit now. So whether this is your first conference, or in my case, my 18th, the caretaker's gift to you can be a profound sense of validation of your own values and beliefs, as well as a renewed hope for our planet, especially for your emerging generation, young folks, but also for future generations. Next slide. So, there we go, good. So, what do we expect from you to be able to receive this gift? Well, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Your commitment, your attentiveness, your patience, and your curiosity. And yes, we want your sleep. We want you there because the most important piece is your presence. Slide, please. Next slide. So we try to add up some numbers, and I think we've understated it, but more than 30 past conference teachers and youth volunteers with 6 senior alumni and 3 co-hosts have contributed over 3,000 hours to bring you this conference, and we're not counting time now. This was before yesterday. If each delegate invested just 20 hours in their project, that's another 9,000 hours. So please reflect on this commitment as organizers and your collective delegate investment to caretakers before you believe one of these days you just might be too tired and may want to skip a session. Those of you who've been to the live conferences know that sleep is at a premium. And so the gift continues. A caretakers conference, mostly in hindsight, can be a place, and later in the week, if you close your eyes and kind of imagine all the people around you, it's kind of a neverland of where we go in that brief space between being awake and being asleep. It can be a place where you glimpse the future you. Next slide. It's where you could see yourself in others who first appear to be totally different than you. You gain new life skill sets that you hadn't imagined you could master. Just as a shout out to these young reporters. Wow, what a great thing for your college resumes when you can say you've been published on the website. We really enjoyed your stories. Acquire the self-confidence to reset your personal goals and your role in securing the future of your community and your planet. And take some selfies of the future you, and then you can look back on them and see how you've changed, how you've grown. So go forth, be present, and make new connections and discoveries, and enjoy this conference. May this conference be the motivator for you and your team to double down your efforts to help keep our planet an adaptive but enduring place for all. Thank you very much.
Wow, I think there's a chat message that's just come up saying, wow, thank you, Dan. And I think I'll echo that. There's so many powerful messages there for us all. There is an opportunity to ask one or two short questions. So if there's anybody who has any questions that they'd like to put into the chat, we can read them out and have a quick look and see what questions that there are. Dan, I suppose I'll start off while we're waiting for the questions in the chat. And I have become a huge believer that each one of us can make a huge difference, both in the actions that we take, but also in the teachings that we can do and the learnings that we can share. What do you think, Dan, for making a difference from this conference, being present, linking in, we're in your strong messages, but what else would you tell people to do to make a huge difference?
Well, that's a real challenge, but I think the validation you get from being around 449 people like yourself, regardless of age, I continue to be inspired each year. I don't think I would have grown and become as committed without having this experience from caretakers. So it's a journey, and it's just just thinking of being with yourself and understanding that you need to do the things, and you might be swimming upstream a few times, but if you've got a team with you to support you, that helps you get across that river.
I like that, and I think that often sometimes in life we do feel like we're swimming up a stream, but you have to keep going. That's where as a marine biologist in me, we can see that the salmon going through horrific times to do it, and does lead to massive success there. There's a good question here from Julian, and he said, what have you seen young CEI participants go on to achieve over the years?
Well, I haven't done the best job of keeping up with all that they've done. So there's much to be uncovered about, but you just look at our senior alumni, look at our alumni who've participated and been involved. I mean, they've really stepped up at a time when we were in this pandemic, couldn't do live conferences, and they really gave us that proverbial shot in the arm to really move forward and become more dynamic. So they are our energy, they are our fuel, our sustainable fuel, of course, but they are our fuel to go forward. So I'm real excited about their support, and there's so many other stories we haven't heard about. So we need to do a shout out to all the people, the thousands who've participated in Caretakers for 35 years, and see what they're doing and how it's affected their lives.
Yeah, I think, thank you. That is just absolutely incredible. Now, there's a question here about your favorite parts of the conference, but what I'm actually going to do is move on to what I hope is one of your favorite parts, because part of my job is keeping us all on time, and that'll give us a minute at the end in case there's a technical glitch somewhere along the way. So what we're moving on to now is the virtual flag ceremony. So every Caretakers of the Environment International conference starts with a flag ceremony, and usually in the non-virtual days it starts with students walking into the assembly hall carrying the flag of their country and lining up on stage. But again, and I just have to praise the organizers so much, because everything is so inventive, and they're going to a virtual flag ceremony. So delegations were asked to film themselves and their delegation making the flag of their country. So we'll hand over for the next 23 minutes for the video on that. Thank you.
Got memories and travel like gypsies in the night. I build a home and wait for someone to tear it down, then pack it up in boxes, head for the next town running. 'Cause I've got memories and travel like gypsies in the night. And 1,000 times I've seen this road, 1,000 times. I've got no roots, but my home was never on the ground. I've got no roots, but my home was never on the ground. I've got no roots. I've got no roots. I've got no roots, but my home was never on the ground. I've got no roots, but my home was never on the ground. I've got no roots. I've got no roots.
bird on a tree. I'm just sitting.
Tan linda es mi Costa Rica, que la Virgen de los Ángeles bajó, y cuando la vio tan bonita, al cielo jamás regresó. Su mano ha criado a la Juela, a Cartago, Punta Arenas y Limón, al Guanacaste, que es tierra preferida de mi corazón. En América una nata fulgura, es Costa Rica la reina del café. Es una seda por montadura, luce el diamante de su San José. Por ser tan linda Costa Rica la llaman la Suiza centroamericana. Por ser tan linda Costa Rica la llaman la Suiza centroamericana.
I got time, it's clear. clear to see from up here. What if we run away? What if we left today? What if we said goodbye to safe and sound? What if we're hard to find? What if we lost our minds? What if we let them fall behind and they're never found? Marimante Majutani.
Nakijk je grappie, leuk zoet als een sappie. Ballen, ook al was mama altijd wappie. Een goed begin is het halve werk, maar een...
My name is Libby.
And hi, my name is Nell.
Unfortunately, some of the students couldn't make it today, either because of finals or COVID.
Our project is based on famous people in Sweden. So here we go.
Wow. Again, I seem to be saying wow a lot. It wasn't in my the script there. That was just one of the most incredible flag ceremonies. And I think one of the things in the designing of future conferences after this one will be this kind of blended approach, because you'll have learned so much from moving it to the virtual world that you might take some into the conferences when everyone can travel again. But what was just incredible there was the creativity, the diversity of ideas. And then what's amazing is that everybody is here because we share the same values. And that is an incredibly powerful bringing together. So we're going to move on now to one of the to our next keynote speaker. And the keynote address today is by an incredible Irish woman, Mrs. Mary Robinson. And for me, I suppose, looking at her from when I was a child, she's been one of the people that I've admired the most and have learned so much. But for all of you all over the world, you might know as much as we do. For us in Ireland, Mary Robinson is part of every single one of our families in a way, because she's been so inspirational to all of us. So in an international front, she's one of the founding members of the Elders and was appointed chair in November 2018, following the sad passing of Kofi Annan. And part of the wisdom of the Elders is to remind the world, and we've just seen it through the flag ceremony, that we actually have universal values that are accepted by every government, yet they're not being implemented. And one of the aims of this conference and what we've heard from Dan is about making a difference. So again, we can talk about that. Mary Robinson was the first woman president of Ireland in 1990. She served for 7 years, I would say, as a transformative leader, changing so much about everything that was happening in Ireland, and particularly in her fights for equality. She then went on to serve as the former United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, and always through that role was a passionate advocate for gender equality, for women's participation in peace building, for human dignity and climate justice. But for this conference, and a key part of the work is that Mary Robinson is globally recognised as a key voice on climate change, and highlights in every talk, and I've had the pleasure of hearing some, the need for drastic actions from world leaders, as well as the intersectionality of climate emerging from what we're seeing. And we need to, I'm going to hand to Mary now to talk to us, and I'd like to welcome you to this conference. It's a huge honour for me to do that. You can't see everybody who's here virtually, but you'll have seen some of the flag ceremonies. So welcome, Mary Robinson. It's a huge honour to have you addressing us today.
Thank you very much, Susan, and hello to everyone around the world. I'm delighted that Ireland is once again chairing the caretakers of the Environment International CEI annual meeting. And I salute the founders of CEI and congratulate you all on your 35th annual meeting. It's great to see the range of countries involved, and I did enjoy the part of the flag ceremony that I was able to watch. I'm kind of glad that I took the opportunity, just quite accidentally, to be wearing a green jacket myself. I feel I'm doing my bit as a former Irish president. Let me speak in particular to the young people taking part, because I do value the role of teachers. I was a law teacher for a long time myself, but I particularly want to have this conversation with young people. I want to tell you how impressed I am with the way young people around the world are taking leadership on the climate crisis, speaking truth to power, being very direct, quite critical, quite assertive. It's really good to see, telling us not really to listen so much to the youth voices as to listen to the science. That's the message you keep conveying to us. Please listen to the science. And of course, you're perfectly right. That's the problem. My generation and the generation after me, because I'm an elder, haven't been listening properly to the urgency of the science. And it's really good to hear your voices speaking out on the intergenerational injustice that you may not have as secure a future as you deserve, and nor may your children or grandchildren. And that is not fair, it's not justice. And you're absolutely right to speak out about it. As Susan mentioned in introducing me, I now have a role as chair of the elders, the group of former heads of state, a former Secretary General, but also human rights leaders like Hina Jalani, or wonderful leaders from India like Ela Bhatt. We don't have to necessarily have held political office, but we are supposed to be independent and humble and wise, and to work for peace and human rights in our world today. And one of the things that I greatly value about how we're now doing this is the fact that we have understood the importance of the intergenerational dialogue. I encourage any of you who are interested to go into the website of the elders, theelders.org, and you'll find very good blogs by young climate activists, because we want as elders to listen to these young climate activists. And that's the difference. That's the difference in the intergenerational dialogue from the time when I was growing up in the west of Ireland, when, frankly, you know, the dialogue was a one-way thing. You listened to your elders and your, in quotes, betters respectfully, and you absorbed their wisdom, and they didn't expect you to answer at all or speak up at all. That wasn't the way it was. So it's very healthy that now in the 21st century, we have the internet. We have the way in which young people have become so interconnected, so smart, so informed. So of course you're speaking up. And of course we elders now have learned that it makes an awful lot of sense to listen to the wisdom of young people, because frankly, it's a two-way dialogue, and we both benefit very much from that. One of the things we haven't done well over the years is to communicate properly, communicate in ways that people understand about the climate crisis. It's either been too scientific, too technical, too remote, about melting glaciers and polar bears. I mean, I love polar bears, but it doesn't really bring home what's happening to people in their lives. So we need much, much better ways to communicate the message of a very real climate crisis. We have at the moment a COVID crisis. A tiny virus has decimated our world, turned it upside down, destroyed a lot of lives, destroyed a lot of health and livelihoods, and it has not been equal. COVID is like a mirror. It has exacerbated all of the inequalities in our world, and we have far too unequal a world, which is why it's so important to have the Sustainable Development Goals. I didn't put this badge on of the Sustainable Development Goals just to talk to you lot. I wear it all the time. Anytime I do a Zoom, I wear this badge to remind people that we have those 17 Sustainable Development Goals that are meant to make our world much more equal and sustainable by 2030. And COVID has done us the favor of exacerbating all those inequalities. And I think it's done a few more favors as well that are relevant to climate. It has reminded us that collective human behavior matters. That's what's been protecting us from the virus while we roll out the vaccine now in the countries that have it. Our social distancing, our washing hands, our wearing masks, even suffering lockdown if necessary. And it's been very significant. We need collective behavior to get us out of this climate crisis. And you young people can really speak to your worlds of young people about the importance of driving that collective behavior. Secondly, we know now that government matters. I needn't go into detail about, you can see visibly the countries that weren't led well, especially at the beginning, and suffered far more deaths than they should, and far more illness, stupidly, even in the rich world, or particularly in the rich world. We've learned that science matters, something you've been telling us anyway. And we listen to our health experts side by side with government officials about COVID. We need to listen in the same respectful and really important way to climate scientists for every step now going towards COP26 and beyond. And it's something more subtle, but I think that compassion also matters. We're seeing, because of the severity of COVID, a lot more humanity in different countries, reaching out to those more affected, those who've lost their jobs, those who've lost their income, those who are hungry, even food parcels in countries like the United States for a while. There's a real sense of being open to the other now, because we've all been out of our comfort zone. That's good, because we need to have more solidarity with the whole world, something that the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals have reminded us over and over. Leave no one behind, even prioritize the furthest behind first, a great message. So that openness of compassion is also very necessary. I wrote a book of stories about climate to show the human story of how people were coping. There are 11 stories, 9 of them are about women, but there are 2 good men as well. And they're really stories of resilience and hard work by those least responsible and most affected. Another part of climate injustice, which makes me always talk about climate justice. And having finished the book, I still wasn't happy that we were communicating properly. So I was encouraged to do something called a podcast. And I'm an elder. I actually had to ask the question, what's a podcast? Which may surprise some of you young people, but maybe you know that we elders don't always know what modern means of communication are. But I was encouraged, and I was told, we'll try you out with a young Irish woman. She was 8 years old when I was elected president in December 1990. We'll try you out with Maeve Higgins, who's a successful comedian in New York. And I thought to myself, I'm a former president. Do I have to do this with a comedian? Well, they said try. And of course it worked wonderfully, because we both have a good sense of humor. And Maeve is only half respectful to me, which is part of the humor. But the point is, we use the podcast to interview incredibly knowledgeable women from the global South, different countries of the South and small islands, and indigenous women from the South, but also from the South of the United States. And we've had our third series. We've been joined by Tamali Kodakari, who's from Sri Lanka, because we didn't want to be 2 Irish women. It was a little bit white and narrow. So we also have Tamali as our co-host of the last series. And we use humor to bring home a very serious message all the time, the message that the voices are telling us. And we have a byline, which I have to explain. The byline is that climate change is a man-made problem and requires a feminist solution. And I always explain that man-made is generic. We're all responsible. And a feminist solution isn't something for women. It's something for women and men and all of us, all of our genders, if I could put it that way, because a feminist solution is problem solving, it's less hierarchical, it's listening, it's humble, and it cares about people and their needs much more than about the vanity of leadership or macho hierarchy, etc. And it grew out of the women's movement. We're seeing more and more men now leading in a feminist way. It means moving towards 50% of cabinets being women, 50% of parliaments being women, balanced gender, etc. And this is the kind of leadership we need in the 21st century. I was very glad to see from your program that this is a very active, workshop-oriented annual meeting, as it should be, as it always should be. But in virtual times, it's both more difficult and more accessible. I understand there are more participating this year because it's virtual, and that's good. So do take part and do listen to the sessions and contribute actively in them and make your voices heard. Why do I talk so much about voices from the South, about voices of women, voices of minorities, voices of the LGBTQ community? Why do I talk about all that? Because I have learned how important those voices are. I learned it when I had a role as the special envoy of the UN Secretary General before the Paris conference in 2015. So I was able to see what was happening in a very privileged seat, if you like. And I followed very closely the discussions for the Sustainable Development Goals in September 2015, saw how 193 countries were able to agree because they knew it wasn't binding on them. They knew it was optional, but we have to make it as the least optional possible. We have to put pressure on to make them implement fully the Sustainable Development Goals. And then we moved on to the climate agreement, which is a treaty, and parts of it are intended to be binding, but it was getting weaker as we got nearer. It was good that China and the United States sort of pressed each other. President Obama and President Xi met and said, we have to have an agreement in Paris, and they agreed on that. But that wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was the actions by the poorest countries, the small island states, the indigenous peoples and civil society. It was Tony de Brum, a foreign minister of the Marshall Islands, who sadly died not long after the Paris Agreement. He was a good friend of mine. He had the leadership qualities at the informal meetings, and he got everyone to think about, we've got to put 1.5 degrees into the text. And then in Paris, we had the 1.5 to stay alive, a mantra in the street in Paris. And, we got the text of staying well below 2 degrees and working for 1.5 degrees. And then the Paris Agreement had to ask the scientists, the global scientists, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, please tell us what's the difference between 1.5 degrees and 2 degrees? And if we have to stay at 1.5 degrees, what must we do? And that was the report, which I hope you're all aware of, in October 2018 of the IPCC on global warming at 1.5 degrees. What scientists said was, when they studied it, the whole world has to stay at or below 1.5 degrees. We have to reduce our carbon emissions by 2030 by 45%. We now think it has to be 50% because emissions keep going up. And we have to be zero carbon by 2050. That changed the whole debate on the way to the COP now in Glasgow, COP26, as I think you would be very well aware. If it hadn't been for those voices getting to the table, we wouldn't have had the urgency. We wouldn't have this new goal of 1.5 degrees and zero, net zero by 2050 or earlier. And all of this is part of how we will have a safe world for you and your children and grandchildren. So my last word before we have a Q&A session is a lovely line from the previous chair of the elders and my former boss when I was High Commissioner for Human Rights, Kofi Annan. Over and over again, he used to use a lovely phrase that I think you like. The phrase is, you are never too young to lead, and you are never too old to learn. So the never too young to lead, I think, is for you, and the never too old to learn is for me and all the other teachers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There's so many inspirational words and what you've gone through there. I can see from the questions that we've got lots of different questions that are coming in. What I'm going to do is just start off with one, and I suppose it's a slightly personal one. often in life, and I know in my role with fisheries control, you're often, you look to an inner compass sometimes when you've got difficult decisions. And with people who you admire, you sometimes say, I wonder what Mary Robinson would do. And often I have been absolutely inspired by your inner compass. You have always been able to see the correct paths and to lead them. So it's to understand from you, when you look back, what's inspired you, what has helped you to formulate your decision making and your incredible ability to see what is truly important.
Well, Susan, I think I've always said, and I said this when I wrote a memoir some years ago, that I seem to have this inner sense of justice. You know, from my early growing up in the west of Ireland, it's not fair, something I would say a lot. And partly because I was wedged between 4 brothers, 2 older than me and 2 younger than me. So I had to have a great interest in human rights and gender equality and, you know, using my elbows. But I did have that sense of justice. I remember studying law, not to make money, but to be a way of advancing social justice. And, you know, throughout my life, and that's why I'm so pleased and honored when Nelson Mandela brought us together in 2007 and asked us to help him with his legacy. Which is so much more impressive and visionary that I could spend the rest of my life trying to implement that in some small way.
Thank you. That's, I think every time I hear my children saying it's not fair, instead of kind of giving out to them, I think it's something we should probably be encouraging them. There's quite a few people who are interested in what's your favorite book. I imagine you're like the rest of us and have a huge pile of favorite books, but I think they might be looking for some inspirational reading. I don't know, what would you recommend?
Well, I'm afraid I'm a bit dull on books. I like biographies. Believe it or not, I'm reading a biography at the moment of somebody who was an elder. He's an elder emeritus now, Jimmy Carter, a former president of the United States, because people never thought of him as being a really good president. And I was with the elders recently in Washington and New York, and I got 2 more books. One of them by my now deputy, who used to be my former boss, the former Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. He's written a really interesting memoir, because I've read the first part of it, about being a small boy in Korea in a very poor household, and they had to flee because of the war. And he had to walk with his very pregnant mother. You know, and it was a horror story at the beginning of what he was telling that made him understand the importance of the United Nations and peace and human rights, etc. It's a lovely story. And the other one is another elder, one Santos, the former president of Colombia, and he's got the Nobel Peace Prize for his work in bringing peace in Colombia. I haven't opened his yet because I opened the other one, but I think reading about people's lives that are inspiring tends to inspire me still.
Oh, I think that's incredible, and I think people picking up your biography afterwards, and also the others that
it's called Everybody Matters. But my husband has a great sense of humor, and when I'd finished it and we got the title, he called it Everybody Mutters. But don't think of that. Think about Everybody Matters.
Not everybody mutters. I love it. There's another question here. There's so many interesting questions, and I think there's a few, and that they're coming in and they're saying, what inspired you to get into politics? Because it was such a change from where you were in Trinity. What you know, and how did you end up moving into that very, very difficult role? Yeah.
I think I was very lucky in my life, and I always acknowledge this. I studied law in Trinity as an instrument for social change. That's what I thought of it as. And then I was lucky enough to get a fellowship to the Harvard Law School. I'm the class of 1968. Now take a deep breath, all you young people, and think about that. But the year 1967 to 68 was an incredible year to be in the United States studying law. It was, all my American friends were critical of the immoral, as they called it, Vietnam War. They were trying to avoid the draft. They were going into poverty programs and civil rights programs in the south of the country. Martin Luther King was assassinated in April, and just after I graduated, Robert Kennedy was assassinated. But what I really came back from Harvard full of was that young people can make a difference. And that was so different from the Ireland at that time, where you waited your turn and you were in your 30s, you got into your 40s, maybe you'd have a turn in whatever. And if you're a woman, you had very few opportunities anyway. And I came back with what actually this husband of mine, we married shortly after that, what he called my Harvard humility. He meant the opposite. He meant my Harvard arrogance. I stood for the parliament, for the Senate seat, elected by the university graduates. There are 6 of the 60 seats for the 2 university streams to elect through a postal vote of their graduates. And I challenged and I said, it's not fair that it's 3 elderly male professors, as it was in both constituencies. And so I stood as a woman in 1969 and got elected. And that kind of started me on the road of a kind of politics which wasn't very narrowly political. It was about ideas.
Wow, and it's not fair played a role again. I'm never going to hear that phrase the same. I'm going to go back to a very early question, and I think it'll resonate, because I know that when in Ireland in that time, I don't think the word that would be used is regime, and it's from Atabora, and he has a question. He says he's from Turkey, and in autocratic regimes, climate activism can be oppressed by the government. What do you recommend to the human rights and climate activists from such countries? So thank you, Atabora. It was a very early question. I thought it was a really important one, a difficult one, I'm afraid. Yeah.
A very, very important question. Thank you, Atabora. I make a point of acknowledging the courage and bravery of those who fight for the land and water and other rights of their people in countries that don't allow the openness to do that, whether it's an autocratic regime or a regime where mining companies have far too much power, as happens a lot in Latin America, for example. And you have very courageous, I call them human rights defenders, who defend the environment for their people, who defend the land rights, the water rights, who fight the climate crisis. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. And we have to acknowledge. And actually, in Latin America and the Caribbean, there's a new convention called the Escazú Convention that is particularly for that region. It's very forward-looking, and it acknowledges the need to protect the human rights defenders of the environment. I wish we had that globally. I wish we had it in Turkey. I wish we had it all over the world.
Thank you, and thank you, Atabora. And there's loads more questions coming on, and there's just one underneath, which is more of a general one of what are you most proud of in your career?
That's a very hard question to answer, because quite honestly, I feel so lucky in my life. I didn't plan most of the things. I didn't intend to become President of Ireland. I was kind of encouraged, and then so many people supported me that I won against the odds. I didn't know about the office of High Commissioner until after I'd decided not to run a second term, and then the then first High Commissioner suddenly resigned. So my story is one of feeling very lucky in what I'm doing, and I always kind of feel what's done is done. I want to move on to try harder for the next thing. So I can't really answer that question. Yeah, maybe I can say yes. Of course, I have to say that. Being president of my country for 7 years was the greatest honor that I had, yes.
Thank you. And it's a hard question. And I think what you're saying of the elders always learning means that there's still more learning and more to come. So, and sometimes I think with what you have done with all of us and the gift you've given to us is sometimes planting seeds in people that you may not even realize that you planted. And sometimes you may not even be aware of the changes that you've made for people's lives and in what they do and the difference that you make. There's a number of people who've asked about the most crucial step for every youth for leading confidently, I can't even say confidently, towards the destination of achieving sustainability. And it's something, because it is a lot of small steps, but what words of wisdom would you give to the youth of today in leading confidently?
I'm actually delighted with this question, because it allows me to give some advice that I was kind of going to give, and I thought, no, I'm going on too long. I'll wait for the Q&A, and lo and behold, I've got the perfect question. I do like to say to audiences, whenever I'm talking to them now, there are 3 steps that really we should all take at the moment, because there's a climate crisis, and we have to be living sustainably, and we're not doing it. We're not doing it in any country. Some countries are doing better than others, but no country's there yet. So, we do need everybody involved. So the 3 steps are, first of all, make the climate crisis personal in your own life. Probably most of you have done that already. You do it by knowing that you recycle more carefully, use electricity, energy more carefully, maybe change your diet a bit, whatever. I think you're probably doing it because you're involved as caretakers. Secondly, get angry with those who aren't doing enough. There's nothing wrong with getting angry, when it's warranted. Governments, cities, corporations, investment, all of these need to be properly criticized for not doing enough, because we're not on course yet for a safe world. And I like the direct anger, if you like, of a Greta Thunberg and many, many others, because until we change, we need that urgency of voice to keep us honest and accountable, because we're not actually doing enough. Thirdly, and this is the most important, I want everyone to take the step of imagining this world that we need to be hurrying towards. It's going to be a much healthier world, because we won't have the fumes of fossil fuel. Do you know that fossil fuel kills somewhere between 7 and 8 million people a year? And many of them are women, cooking indoors on open fires with coal and charcoal and wood and animal dung, and their children are around them and get very affected also. So it'll be a much healthier world. It'll be a much more equal world, because to get there, we're going to have the developing world have access to this clean energy and the clean jobs that we're all talking about. And we have to make it a more equal world. We have to have access to vaccines more equitably to start with, and so on. If we don't think about this world and start hurrying towards it, we won't have the whoomph to get there. And we need that whoomph now, hard, up to COP26 in Glasgow and beyond.
That was an incredible answer and so inspiring. And I'd like to say a huge shout out and a thank you to Kirsty Young, who asked the question. So thank you so much for that. There's from Carter, who's in the USA, he's just come in and he says, what would you say to those that actually deny the existence of climate change? Because obviously that's something that people are dealing with. And there's another question, if you don't mind, I'm going to double them together, which is, when did it become clear to you that climate change was a problem? So I've kind of put in 2 together there.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Great question, Carter. I think there are 2 different kinds of people who deny climate change, and I have a very stern attitude towards one. These are the fossil fuel companies that denied for so long, like the cigarette companies, and they, paid for false science. Even now, when they're using language of being green, a lot of it is PR. They spend more on advertising than they do on their green policies that they speak up to a lot, so there's greenwashing going on, etc., etc. They're the people that I can be very angry about, because it's affecting so many of us. And then there are people who just don't know, because maybe their newspapers never cover it, their television never covers it, they don't have exposure to it. I would always talk to them. I'd always be open. A lot of the Trump world put it that way. I believe, should understand that climate is going to affect them disproportionately because of where they live, because of what they're doing, etc. And they need to protect themselves. They need to be brought into the broad tent. We need to be generous about, being open and not, and not fault people who are just ignorant because they haven't been exposed properly. There's a lot of false, fake news and false propaganda going on, which is the problem. And then you'll be probably maybe encouraged to know how late I came to the climate issue. I always say this when it's relevant. I served 7 years as President of Ireland. I spoke about the environment, but never about climate, because climate change wasn't something we perceived in Ireland at the time. We just didn't appreciate it. It was affecting the most vulnerable countries. That's the injustice, but not Ireland at the time, and not Europe, and not the United States. And then I became UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, and I became aware of the climate issue, but there was another part of the UN dealing with it. And I was dealing with human rights and gender, rights of people with disabilities, rights of indigenous peoples, big full portfolio. And I was frankly in my silo. You know, I didn't make the link. Afterwards, when I started working for a small NGO I formed called Realizing Rights, we were working on the rights that really matter if you don't have them. Rights to food and water, health, education, shelter. And I was working in African countries in 2003, 2004, and all I heard was, things are so much worse. Is God punishing us? Some women would say to me. What is happening? This is outside our experience. How on earth is this happening? Our rainy seasons don't come, as they always came. We have long periods of drought and flash flooding. And somehow the penny dropped, and I realized climate change undermines all human rights. Ultimately, the right to life itself, but all of the important rights for people. And I had missed it, which was why I now have to make up time and be so passionate about climate justice.
I'm so inspired by what you're saying, and I think the word that you used and the idea of it being justice, of those who have done very little to create it being the most affected by it, and the injustices that are happening, is I think the ideal way to end our session together. One of my sad roles as chair is to keep everything on time. I, however, could keep asking you questions for hours, but I am conscious of your diary and your time. I am reading, as we're in here, and apologies because it makes my eyes go left and right a little bit, from the feedback from the teachers, from the students, from the observers from all over the world who are at this conference. And I think it's fair to say that the overriding message is thank you for what you're doing. And there's admiration, and you're seen as inspirational, and it's just been absolutely incredible hearing from you. So I would like to echo that. The only thing we can't do virtually is clap hands all together, but just to say that the messages that are coming in are just expressing huge gratitude to you, and holding on to phrases and quotes that you've used, which I think will be used in future conferences. So thank you so much. It's been an absolute honour talking to you, and thank you so much for when Ireland is hosting this conference, that you've made the time to come in and talk to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan. Good luck with the rest of the conference. I saw so much innovation in the flag ceremony. I have no doubt it's going to be a brilliant conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's a fantastic keynote by Mary Robinson, and it's wonderful seeing all of the different thank yous and motivations and wows coming in the chat function, and it's lovely. For me, I actually cycled into my office because we've all been working from home, so I could put this onto a ginormous screen so I could read it easily and see absolutely everything that was happening. So it's just wonderful, and thank you to everybody for really good questions. And apologies if I didn't get to them all. I was doing my best. So we're going to keep moving along, and what we have next is a keynote speech from Shannon Guihan from Treadright. And Shannon is the chief of the Treadright program and sustainability officer of the Travel Cooperation. She's going to talk us through the Treadright program and how it's going to help to transform the tourism industry in a more sustainable direction. So we'll hand over to that, and thank you so much.
Here today, and thank you all for the invitation to participate in this amazing event. My name is Shannon Guihan, and I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer for the Travel Corporation, or TTC. We are a family of travel brands, including Red Carnation Hotels, who owns the incredible Ashford Castle in County Mayo, as well as Brendan Vacations, based in Dublin. And I've been asked by my colleague at Brendan, Laura Kelly, to share with you today the way in which our group of brands have used the United Nations Global Goals to inform our approach to sustainability as a business. The TTC family of brands is rather large. There are more than 40 brands that we own and operate. And I share this because I think it's important to appreciate our scale and both the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead of us. Sustainability is at the core of our business, the importance of which has continued to grow over the past number of years. We have a singular aim, and that is to make travel matter. We endeavor to accomplish this through our philanthropic efforts governed by our Treadright Foundation and through our 5-year sustainability strategy entitled How We Tread Right. Launched in September 2020, our strategy is anchored to the UN Global Goals, which, as you know, were developed in 2015. These goals have since become the language of sustainability for governments and businesses, and we have decided to focus on 11 SDGs in our strategy, those that you see highlighted here. Now, I'd like to share with you a short video that explains our approach and the way in which we aim to advance the global goals.
How We Tread Right is the Travel Corporation's new 5-year sustainability strategy. It will guide the way we operate and the projects we support through our Treadright Foundation to ensure we make travel matter. How We Tread Right identifies the issues that are impacting the health of our world and presents 11 strategic goals that will guide sustainability at TTC over the next 5 years. Our 11 sustainability goals are designed to align with the United Nations Global Goals, and all of which support our 3 pillars that continue to guide our sustainability efforts. The planet we call home, the people whose communities we visit, and the rich wildlife we find there. To support our planet, we are addressing the environmental footprint of our businesses and our trips to advance sustainability and work towards the conservation of our beautiful planet. To address our carbon footprint, TTC and our brands have committed to reducing our emissions where possible before purchasing offsets to address what we cannot draw down. Our goal is to achieve carbon neutrality by 2030 or sooner. We will source 50% of our electricity from renewable sources by 2025. Food is critical to the fabric of a destination. We will be mindful of our own practices and encourage sustainable food production across our trips. By 2025, our goal is to reduce food waste by 50% across all hotels and ships, and to increase use of local and organic products via our supply chain. To address our environmental impact, we must also work to minimize the waste we produce. By 2025, our goal is to reduce printed brochures by 50%. And to eliminate as many unnecessary single-use plastics from our operations and itineraries by 2022. To support people, we aim to protect and empower the cultures and traditions of the worldwide communities we visit through travel. Make Travel Matter experiences are chosen with great care for the way in which they support the United Nations Global Goals and provides a positive impact for the traveler as well as the destination. Look for this seal to identify a Make Travel Matter experience across all our brands. By 2025, our goal is to include at least one Make Travel Matter experience on 50% of all itineraries, and to achieve a 20% increase of itineraries visiting developing regions by specialist brands. TTC and its family of brands aim to support our teams and communities through striving for increased diversity and inclusion and giving back to our communities. By 2025, our goal is to increase employee and market sentiment regarding diversity and inclusion across our brands. And our TTC family commits to completing 30,000 volunteer hours. Our guests have magnificent opportunities to view wildlife in its natural habitat. And through our wildlife pillar, we are working to ensure the conservation and protection of all the world's wildlife. We remain committed to providing only ethical animal experiences. We will ensure all wildlife experiences across TTC brands adhere to our animal welfare policy by 2021. Learn how TTC is living our Make Travel Matter pledge through how we Treadright.
And so after that summary, I've been asked here today to share with you specifically how we've used the global goals as a guide for our business. And now I'm going to focus on SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, 14, Life Below Water, and 15, Life on Land. As I understand, these are the three main SDGs that you'll be discussing throughout your sessions. So SDG 11 is interestingly the only goal that specifically calls out tourism. And from our perspective and the work that we are doing, we are impacting that goal through our How We Treadright goal number 7 and 8 that you see on your screen. The former is to include at least one Make Travel Matter experience on 50% of our more than 1,500 itineraries. And that's what I'm going to focus on for just a moment. In addition, I should say, to SDG 14 and 15, these are also impacted by our Make Travel Matter Experiences program, in addition to our animal welfare policy, which you just saw on the screen. So our Make Travel Matter Experiences program is critical for us. These are conscious travel experiences chosen for their genuine positive impact on the environment and community. These are travel experiences that have been assessed against a set of criteria developed by and for our teams using the framework for the global goals. And I'd like to explain how we ensure that a Make Travel Matter experience is good, actually. And so I'm going to use SDG 11 as an example. Experiences that we believe advance Global Goal 11 also educate our guests on the sustainability and resiliency of a community. They contribute to making a destination inclusive, resilient, and sustainable for generations to come. In practice, according to the UN, that means these experiences must provide access to affordable housing, protect and safeguard the world's cultural and natural heritage, or provide access to a green space. Now, these are criteria that we have built based on the framework for the SDGs. So that means access to affordable housing ensures experiences, the travel experience, that business is also providing safe, accessible housing for its staff. By protecting and safeguarding the world's heritage, it means that the experiences may be owned by Indigenous peoples and incorporates Indigenous culture. It may preserve local or Indigenous language or safeguard traditional practices that are significant to a community and what makes that community special. These are all aspects of heritage and culture that are vital to keeping our communities vibrant. Access to green space is another component of supporting healthy, resilient, and sustainable communities. And so these experiences or businesses may improve accessibility or safety of green space and protect those lands for everyone to enjoy. Make Travel Matter criteria, as I mentioned, are built on a selection of elements that differ per global goal. So in some cases, experiences must meet between 1 to 3 criteria. Again, the criteria we have pulled from the framework of the Global Goal. However, a very common element amongst all possible SDGs is that there's an educational component for our guests. So again, using Global Goal 11, Sustainable Cities, as an example, in order to advance this goal, a Make Travel Matter experience must meet the following criteria. It must have an educational component, and guests must understand and learn how the organization contributes to sustainability and resiliency of the community. And it must also meet at least one of the other additional criteria listed here on your screen. A really great example are Delreta Kingdom tours at the Giant's Causeway. They're known for exceptional travel experiences that tell stories and illustrate a deep love for country and people, another way that we pass on our oral traditions. These family-run tours have a strong educational component, and they immerse travelers in history and heritage with stories that have been passed down for generations. The experience also directly, of course, supports Giant's Causeway, which is the only naturally created UNESCO World Heritage Site in Ireland that are designated as protected lands. It's a pretty special place. Another example is our Glenshane Country Farm experience, and this is with one of our travel brands, Kentucky. Located in Northern Ireland, James McCloy is a fourth-generation shepherd, whose name I'm quite certain I've mispronounced, forgive me, who invites travelers to his farm to illustrate how he's using sustainable farming and traditional shepherding practices. And of course, these all contribute to his family and his community's overall resiliency. So he invites our guests to his farm, where they learn about his family's history of traditional agricultural practices passed down through generations and keeping our heritage once again alive. For those of you who may be a little bit familiar with travel and tourism, with the rapid growth in our sector, up until, of course, the 2020 travel halt as a result of COVID, travel and tourism were facing a number of challenges that had previously remained unaddressed. The true cost of the growth of our industry was being felt in some of the world's most popular destinations. This resulted in a myriad of issues due to, frankly, excess number of visitors. You can see some of the issues here. Climbers banned in Uluru, Machu Picchu feeling the strain of booming tourism, and in Rome, where travelers were banned from sitting on the Spanish Steps, which is one of my earliest 16-year-old traveler memories. It's sad when there's too many of us, I'm afraid. And so our goal to increase our visitation to what we defined as a developing destination in an effort to support SDG 11, this was developed to promote a greater spread of tourism and tourism dollars within a destination, to reduce the burden of overcrowding, to create additional jobs, and to support other benefits such as affordable housing, better zoning, and overall protection of the cultural fabric of a community. Again, something I can't stress enough. So as noted, SDG 14 and 15, as we move on, are impacted through our animal welfare policy. Now, we developed our animal welfare policy in cooperation with World Animal Protection to adhere to the 5 domains, the most up-to-date scientific framework for animal welfare, which is a globally recognized set of criteria. Using this framework, our ops teams assesses the animal's nutrition, environment, health, behavior, and mental well-being when selecting appropriate experiences. This ensures that travelers experience wildlife in an ethical fashion. Tigers, dolphins, big cats, and more have long been forced to perform, give rides, perhaps act as selfie props for the perfect photo by our industry. More than 500,000 wild animals are currently enduring suffering at tourist entertainment venues worldwide, I'm afraid. And our animal welfare policy seeks to combat these practices in our industry. And so, with that, I will close. I would like to say a massive thank you for inviting me to participate, and I wish you all an incredible Caretakers Conference. As you may know, there is an awful lot of work to be done in this space, sustainability overall, to ensure that commerce and our communities are truly tracking in a more sustainable direction. But please rest assured that there are some incredible efforts taking place, and that in the future we can only benefit from your, activity now and again in the future. So again, thank you and best of luck.
Well, I'm going to say a huge thank you there. Just to say, it was really, it's good to see the video and to learn. And I can see from the chat that there's issues that are coming up in many countries with over-tourism and, you know, what steps to be taken. And it kind of brings me neatly to the workshops tomorrow, because one of the workshops that's on tomorrow and being led by Laura is in sustainable tourism. I think for me, what's sad is I'll be going back to the day job tomorrow and only dipping into some of the conferences and some of what's going on. But it's just to encourage everybody who's on to enjoy your workshops tomorrow. And I think the key messaging from over my life and career is the more that you put in, the more that you get out. So just to participate fully and to enjoy and to learn from everybody who's there. It's with huge sadness that I am going to bring you through to the closing ceremony of all of the different talks of today. And we had, the first thing I just want to say is this has been absolutely incredibly well organized. I think all of us are spending all day in virtual classrooms, in virtual meetings, at virtual events. And there's most of them, there's always a technical issue or a pause or something that's gone wrong. And in the ones where the organizers have put in huge amounts of work, there isn't. So this afternoon or morning for some of you, evening for some of you, has run through beautifully and smoothly. And I would like to express massive thanks to the organisers that have been working in the background and will be all week to make sure everything runs smoothly, and the fantastic compiling of videos and the mixture of using videos and live action. I think for all of us, I'd like to say a huge thank you. So massive thank you to the organisers. Now, what I'm going to do now is I want everybody who's here, if you can, and is to put your cameras on. We're not going to unmute you because I think singing along to the closing song with all of us could be a bit of a disaster. So what I'm going to do, and I was trying to practice what's the best hand movements to do, but it's to invite everybody to put the cameras on and to wave and to sing with the mute button on along to the closing song. So the Caretaker song was written in 2008 for that year's conference in Denmark. And it's been played since at different points, different conferences. And the version that's played this year is a new rendition made last year by the students in Indonesia. So it's was the first virtual conference that was hosted in Indonesia. So this is to say well done to them, because I think they had to do a quick catch up when the real conference was cancelled, just to encourage everybody who's out there, put your cameras on, get involved, because as I said before, the more you put in, the more you'll get out. So just enjoy, and I'm going to move on to the closing. And after the closing, there'll be a 15-minute break, but there'll be videos running all the way through, again, thanks to a wonderful job being done by the organisers. So thank you.
Yeah.
of her. The sea of
Thank you very much, and I see a lot of people applauding, and I'm joining you. Thank you very much, Susan, as well, for chairing that wonderful opening ceremony, introducing the speakers, making sure we stayed precisely on time, and asking very interesting questions. Thank you to everyone who participated, who posted questions, comments, compliments in the chat. For now, go have your break. It's only 15 minutes, but I'm afraid that's all we can offer you because there's so much more that we plan to do today. We will be having our clan meetings in 15 minutes. So get up, stretch your legs, stretch your arms, get some fresh air, a cup of coffee or a snack, and we'll see you in 15 minutes.